Not only that, he lies through his teeth, but also he twists word. Take a listen what he's saying here. But before I do that, if you're not subscribed to my channel, consider subscribing. Let's take a listen.
Gentlemen, do I understand that you're yielding to Senator Duckworth? Is that correct? Both of you? Senator Van Hollen? Are you going to yield to Senator Duckworth? Okay. Senator Duckworth.
I thank my colleagues. My daughter has dental surgery, so they're being very kind so I can get her through that. Thank you. Mr. Secretary, last March, the President invoked the Alien Enemies Act, a notorious wartime law last used for Japanese internment. He said that he was responding to the Maduro regime's supposed invasion or other acts of war against the United States. But in recent weeks, you, the Department of Justice, and our friends across the aisle have repeatedly said that we are not at war with Venezuela. Secretary Rubio, if that is true and we are not at war with Venezuela, will you advise the President to rescind his invocation of the Wartime Alien Enemies Act?
Well, that was a mechanism to remove people from our country that prevent grave danger. So, for example, we know for a fact that Trinidad Agua is a very dangerous gang. In fact, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I may have been the first member of Congress.
This is a wartime act, Mr. Secretary.
Well,
are we currently at war with Venezuela?
No, we're not in a state of war in Venezuela.
Okay, the Supreme Court has described the Alien Enemies Act as a wartime power, our Supreme Court. And before now, the Alien Enemies Act was only invoked during the War of 1812, World War I, World War II, when it was used to intern thousands of innocent civilians. Are you really arguing that the President should be able to wield an internment law?
No, but we're talking about two separate things here. So you're talking about the state of Venezuela or are describing the regime.
And
we're talking about, but what the President designated.
Invoked the Alien Enemies Act.
I know, Senator, but let me be clear with you. No, but what the President was talking about are these gangs that have, and these narco-trafficking groups that are waging war on the United States. There's no doubt. These groups have waged war on the United States. They have waged, for example, Trinidad Agua is not just a criminal gang presence in our street. It is a criminal gang directly responsible for narco-trafficking.
The Trump administration...
Groups cannot wage war against the United States. Marco Rubio thinks we are all stupid. It has to be the president, head of state of a country to declare that kind of thing. We are at war with the U.S., then yeah, you can say that. But he is trying to avoid responsibility because the moment he says, yeah, we are in a state of war or we have acted in such a way that can be counted as act of war, then he doesn't have congressional approval for that. How can he go to war without the approval from the Congress? Therefore, Marco Rubio, in order to try to avoid responsibility and accountability, he's saying again and again, no, we are not in a state of war with Venezuela whatsoever.
And has acknowledged that the vast majority of the men it rounded up and deported to torture under this law had no criminal records whatsoever.
We didn't torture anybody.
Over 75%.
Who did we torture? We haven't tortured anybody. We've arrested people that are members of gangs and we've deported them. We don't want gang members in our country.
Investigations have found that many of the men were here legally. If the administration is willing to lie about who it's targeting under this law, what protections do totally innocent people have against abuse? Again, I want to ask you, will you advise the President to rescind his invocation of the Wartime Alien Enemies Act?
No, of course not. I mean, these are people that are threats to the national security of the United States. But I've described this in hearings in the past, including before you guys.
So you're saying that we're at war?
We are absolutely. When it comes to narco-trafficking groups and criminal gangs that are targeting the United States for criminal activity,
we're in a state of war.
There's no doubt about the fact that we're confronting them in a warlike setting because they're waging war on us.
And do the Geneva Convention
They're waging war against us and they're enemy combatants as a result of it. And the fact of the matter is that we are confronting these irregular groups, and that's one of the great challenges of the new century in this hemisphere in particular, is that these non-state actors who possess state-like capabilities in terms of their weaponry pose a grave danger to the United States. I don't think any American would dispute that we have cartels that pose a threat to the national security of the United States.
With all of the other laws of when it comes to warfare. I mean, you're saying that he can invoke this wartime power.
No, I'm saying
he cannot invoke this wartime power unless he goes to war, which he did, but he's not going to acknowledge that. He's like, oh, we're not at war. And Marco Rubio saying that the cartel, they have warlike capabilities is something like mind-boggling. Come on, Marco. Come on, we are not that stupid. These cartels, yes, they are very lethal. They are very, very dangerous for sure. But they do not have guns. They do not have tanks to wage war against the United States. And they are not definitely trafficking any drug the way you are saying. Yes, they are trafficking drug into U.S. Yes, but not the way Marco Rubio and his boss, Donald Trump, is claiming.
You're asking me, I'm here to discuss foreign policy and what's in the realm of the Department of State.
Well, you
I think
don't
your
think,
questions
you don't
are better
think
directed to the
invoking
Department
the
of
Alien
Justice.
Enemies Act,
But I would tell
which
you
is
that.
a wartime, which is something that
Yeah, but
also
you're
the
asking me a
court
question
said
that's-
can be invoked during
All right, but
wartime.
you're
And it's
asking
only
me a
been
question
invoked
that's
during the
more
War of
appro-
1812, World War I, and World War II.
You're
It's only
asking
been
me a
invoked 3
question-
times, and this president is invoking it.
Okay, you're
What-
asking me a
what-
question about the
what-
domestic application of a law that's best directed
not
to the
a
Department of
complication.
Justice.
It's
No,
not a
it is,
complication. It's
because you're
very
asking me
simple.
something to opine on something that's in the realm of the Department of Justice in terms of its domestic application. I can tell you that the United States is most certainly confronting terrorist and criminal organizations operating in our hemisphere that pose a grave danger to the United States. Anyone who believes that gangs that flood our country with fentanyl
All right,
or
let me
cocaine
ask you
are
this.
not threats to the United States is not living in reality and certainly does not reflect the opinion of most Americans.
No, it is not about the cocaine. It is not about the drug cartel. I'm sorry, Marco Rubio. It is about oil. Your boss said that on Air Force One. He said it. We are going to get the oil from Venezuela. It was always about oil. It is not the cartels. Again, Marco Rubio, he lies through his teeth. And this is something so, I mean, I can't take it no more.
The president already said that he was ready to put American troops in Venezuela again. So we're at war right now.
When did he
So
say
if
that?
things don't go well with the Chavistas you've empowered,
When did the president say he was gonna put
what is your
troops in
criteria for returning
Venezuela?
a military option, putting you? What is your criteria for returning to a military option and putting boots on?
Well, I don't recall the president saying he was going to put troops in Venezuela. Where did he say that?
I'm asking you, what are your?
But that's what you said. I didn't
Yeah,
remember
the president has
saying
already
that.
said that he was ready to put American troops in Venezuela.
No, I think the president has said that he retains the right as commander-in-chief to protect the United States against any imminent threats. Maybe that involves troops, maybe that involves air power. We hope, but we don't anticipate that being the case in Venezuela.
I worry that you are playing fast and loose with our nation's
Well, I just gave you
military. And let me
testimony
just
here
say,
for
I just want to conclude by
Yeah, but I just gave you testimony of how well things are moving forward, not as fast as
but
everybody
you
would like.
also said
So
that
why-
in 6 or 9 months, if things don't go well, you're going to have to do something else. And the president's already said that he's not ruled out the military option. And you've also just said that, yes, we are at war. The president has
But
wartime
every
powers.
president retains
So
the power
it's
to use military to
reasonable for me
protect-
to ask you,
And I gave you a very specific example. Every president retains the right to defend the United States against an imminent threat. Yes, if there are just give you an example, Iranian drones deployed in Venezuela that could threaten the United States, we most certainly will address that. Even if it's
That's the talking point. That's not going to cut it, Marco Rubio. Iranian Hezbollah and Hamas is in Venezuela. Like he's repeating the same thing, same lies, same narrative, just pushing it down to our throats. Unbelievable.
located in Venezuela. But we hope we don't get to that point. We don't expect to get to that point.
I don't think that
we're not trending in that direction. That's a fact. But that said, on
the
the one
people
hand,
of America
people
are
here are
worried that
unhappy
this
we're
is a president
cooperating
who
with
engages
Venezuela.
in yet
On the other hand,
another
they want us to
forever
go to
war,
with
Mr.
them.
Secretary.
What's
We don't
that?
need to be in another forever war. And that is the path that we are going towards. And let me just say...
Well, how are we
let me
going towards a
conclude- let me
forever
just- let
war
me
if we're
just
dealing with
conclude.
we're dealing
you're
with
not
Delcy
ruling out a
Rodriguez every
military
day?
option. You're not going to ask him to rescind his invocation of the Alien Enemies Act. That puts Americans in jeopardy. And let me just say something about the president's recent comments about NATO allies. When I served in Iraq, there were Polish forces there with us. There were British forces there with us. There were Spanish forces there with us. I personally landed in Elzi, España, which came under direct attack by insurgents. Polish troops who have worked with the Illinois military, with the Illinois National Guard for 30 years, died in Afghanistan, Mr. Secretary.
All the president
so I just
wants
wanna
is for
say
NATO to
is
have
that
more
our NATO
capabilities.
allies have stood beside
wants
us,
our allies to
and
have more
we
naval-
need to maintain the strength of that alliance.
I get it.
yield
Not
back.
all the
Senator,
president wants is
Yeah, again, Marco Rubio, you sold this war to Donald Trump. You did that. And we do not know how much money you will pocketing for that war with Venezuela. Now we are waiting for another war with Iran very, very soon. And he's not going to ask the Congress to approve that war with Iran. No, not at all. He doesn't care about laws, nothing. His morality is all that matters. Subscribe to my channel. See you in the next video.